Thank you everybody for coming. First, I would like to welcome you to this webinar that is happening within the framework of KIBLIX Festival. And for a detailed program, you can check the website. Also, I'm very happy to have Sare Bezovšek today with us. And we have the title that is taken from the chapter we had to read for today, which is a chapter from the book Team Human by Douglasa Rushkoffa. So before we start, I would just like to mention that we are recording the session, as well as we are going on Facebook Live, and I think maybe also YouTube. So this is the digital environment we are currently in, literally. And also, I would like to mention for those that don't know that this webinar is intended to get to know a bit more about Sare Bezovšek practice, but on a bit different way. So throughout thinking together and learning together about the text by Douglasa Rushkoffa, we are gonna have to make some loose or not so loose relations with Sara's work and his text. And the idea is basically to share together certain knowledge, and the idea is not that we know everything about it. So feel free to join the discussion or comment or ask whatever you feel like throughout this hour. So also, before I give my word to Sara, I would just like to ask everybody to briefly introduce themselves. The classical introduction here is actually just your name, your pronoun, and a question that is related to text. So today it is actually, are you a team player? Because the book is actually titled Team Human. So I can start. My name is Irena Boric. My pronouns are her and she, and I am a team player.
Hi everyone, my name is Dina and I'm really happy to be here today, and my pronouns would be she, her, and I would love to be a team player.
Hi, my name is Jure. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a team player, but I like for someone to take initiative within the team, whether it be me or someone else. I just don't like when it's all over the place. And another thing, I'm eating pizza, so I'll be not appearing on the screen, so you don't, so it's not too abject.
Hi, I'm Sara. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm sadly also not a team player.
Hey, I'm Tina, she, her. I'm also half eating. I'm still half at work, so I'm gonna be a bit more in the background. So yeah, so much for team playing.
Somebody else wants to share their introduction with us?
Hi, my name is Vina. I'm drinking coffee at the moment, and my pronouns are she, her, and I would also like to be a team player, but my introverted nature is kind of contradicting with it.
If there is somebody else, or I think maybe we are all. Okay, so then I will just introduce Sara. Sara is, as you may know, some of you know her work or you know her. She's a visual artist that often uses different kind of found materials, mostly on internet or within moving images from the series or films, and then she kind of collects them and creates completely new narratives from there. So for her, this is the way she acts and interacts within this digital media environment. And I would now like to ask Sara to introduce her work, and then we can discuss it further. So if you also have some questions, of course, you are welcome to ask afterwards. Thank you. And I will stop sharing screen.
Hi, I will just now share my screen. This one, yeah. Okay. So I'm Sara, and today I'll talk about my most recent and actually still ongoing project titled seznanili, which is part of the series Poznavanje narave in družbe. That's what the acronym stands for, which translates into nature and social studies. So now I'll just, So here we see this intro screen with some quick, simple guidelines and a resemblance to the language used in similar games. The web page can be viewed on all devices, and because of the sheer mass of all of the content, it is advisable to play it on a computer so that you can really see all the details and read the texts. Because the project is quite extensive and we have a time limit, I'll mostly show the main page. After we click start here, I preloaded the page just in case, because I don't really trust my computer to keep up with the task. So here we see a simple, cute, everything's a-okay start. And if we scroll down a bit, we soon things start to feel a bit weird. Like, as you can see, the blue sky is suddenly artificial, and the first movie reference, there we see it, is The Truman Show. So nature's starting to crumble, right? And I kind of started with the current socio-political situation. I began collecting the various apocalyptic scenarios that I encountered in popular films and TV series. So I organized the collected material thematically and visually in the form of an online collage, creating my own narrative, which guides the viewer to the different possible futures of humanity. So at first, the web page was simply an interactive one-scroll website full of hidden nooks and additional links. As we can see here, these blue squares indicate that this is clickable. All of this is clickable. And if we click on one of it, it's a list of school massacres by Death Tool. It opens in a new window so that you can either read it later or just close it and continue scrolling. So the links allow the viewer to explore the given themes on their own. I later got the idea to upgrade my original page into an interactive story game, where the viewer can select their own narrative, which can lead to the different futures of humanity. So here we can see the first option for a new narrative. If we click here, okay, it would lead us to a future where overpopulation would lead us to a dystopian future. So here we can see very dense megacities, usually very slum-like, because of, well, in this scenario, society collapsed, but people would still be multiplying and needing more and more housing. And if we just fast forward to the end of the page, we can see two new options. And if we click the second one, it would throw us back to the initial timeline. Ooh. If it would let me. Here. Okay. So this would throw us back to the initial timeline, which would lead to our imminent doom. And if we scroll down a bit, so as you can see, I collaged visual material found online in the form of short videos, memes, photographs, GIFs, emojis, and various external links with my own works, thereby creating a complex and visually saturated narrative. So I tried to make the transitions as smooth as possible, visually and also thematically. I hope it isn't lagging too much, but there isn't really much else I can do if I want to show it in real time. So at the start, I was just drawn to various apocalyptic scenarios that could lead to the end of the world as we know it. The apocalypse is any universal or widespread destruction or disaster. In the past, there were already such events like World War II or the extinction of the dinosaurs. So generally, with some rare exceptions, I'm a one-man band. I did this project all on my own with a few pointers on like how to use this tool for making web pages since it wasn't made for projects like this. I work with appropriation and remix as they are great tools for web-based art and storytelling, and in my opinion, also the best way to directly comment on the topics that interest me. Okay, let's stop here. When people know and remember references that I use, my stories get more levels and additional explanations. And if you don't get the reference, the piece usually still works, or at least that's one of the things that I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, as we can see, the narrative follows the typical Hollywood film premises and takes the viewer from an idyllic situation to scenes of natural catastrophes, global pandemics, alien invasions, and then later nuclear explosions, meteorite collisions, and other society-ending situations. So here's the part where coronavirus turns people into zombies. So the whole file, the whole page is way too big. I have to really apologize to the people with a bad internet connection who experienced that. But I had a very tight deadline and basically zero experience with this kind of project. But I think that the page was, even if for some people it was slow, and that It was very rough in the beginning, but it was still very well accepted because it's just so different and such a great alternative to all the kind of forced web exhibitions and art practices that we see these days. So now I'm kind of on the low with the page. I'm constantly working on it. And when it will be finished in my eyes and unburdened with all those deadlines, I'll actually release it to the broader audience and hopefully stop working on it. That's something I'm very bad at, because as I watch these movies, I can't stop myself from spotting better suited material. And then I just update the page again. So this, for instance, is when an artificial intelligence would launch a nuclear apocalypse. Here specifically, because it was instructed to help our planet with environmental problems. And it saw again that overpopulation was the problem, and so it decided to extinct the human race. So later we come to nuclear winter. This is a new window which can lead you to one of the possible outcomes of humanity. So if a massive nuclear war happened, it could lead to nuclear winter. That's a very grim future. And after the fall of an extra large meteor, we can see here at the end of the page the three main post-apocalyptic scenarios. So dystopia part here in the end is my next step, for it's very complex. There's a lot of different types of dystopias. Bureaucratic control, corporate control, philosophical control, and technological control. And also there are tons and tons of visual material to go through. That's why I started with human extinction and utopia. They were less extensive. And as we could see before in nuclear winter and overpopulation, I already touched some aspects of dystopian futures. And these past few days, I've been finishing a subpage titled Negative Utopia. Most of the utopias that we read about and watched movies about are negative utopias. They were a dystopia disguised as a utopia. So mostly the old sci-fi movies and books, the classics like Logan's Run and 1984 and Brave New World, these are the typical examples of that. A true utopia is perfect without any problems and therefore dramatically quite boring, as you can imagine. Yeah, so this is where I stop my presentation and give the word back to Irena. Ooh. Okay.
Oh, thank you very much, Sara, for this presentation. I mean, a talk about the work, because actually the work is online and basically we had the kind of right experience of the work, even though it is just a shared screen. So first I would like to ask everybody if somebody has an immediate question for an artist. At the moment, no. I would just like to ask first, before introducing the text, I'm just curious, how did you make all these links in a sense of bringing in because it seems that it's very dense the way you collected all this information. And then I wonder, how did you, was it you or was it an algorithm, in a sense, like how do you came with all the materials, and also what was your kind of criterion to put certain pages, like for example, there is sometimes Wikipedia entry, or there is National Geographic entry, or there is, I don't know, New York Times, depends. There are different kind of sources of information, and I'm curious just what was your kind of criterion for building it, and also like the relevance of the information. In a sense, I saw also this fake YouTube video on animals rescue. Like, what's that about? In a sense, there is a lot of different. And of course, I was not able to even go through everything. So I'm just curious, like, what was your kind of, how do you go through all the forest of information, and how did you bring it together? Dina said she would also have the same question.
Yes. Well, most of the page was made very spontaneously, except for the main storyline and the definitions of the apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic scenarios that required quite a bit of research. But I really like that some of the articles are naive and probably false, because it doesn't really matter in this context, you know, like what's the truth and why should I be the one who should be right? I wanted to achieve this Wikipedia or Google search feeling, so that the viewer had to decide what to believe. I sometimes just took the articles that were the most appealing at the moment, and I think that speaks for itself. And regarding the fake animal rescue, that's actually true. And I just stumbled upon it because since we're in lockdown, most of my time I'm just on the internet, and when I find something that could be used in the page, I just put it in. I don't really question it. I just use it. Yeah.
Okay, that opens another chapter of tackling the issue of post-truth and regarding the whole aspects of how production of fake news and all these kind of things. But then I think this could also bring us back to this issue of the medium, and the way you are also like, for example, I think it's interesting that you are, as a digital and visual artist, actually basically digital media environment, it's your environment. Even if you are not presenting your work on the internet, you're referring to some aspects of it. So in a sense, I would now like to introduce briefly the text by Douglas Rushkoffa, who is actually, for him, I mean, the medium is also again the main aspect of it. So this is the book. I'm like, making a commercial of it. But the thing is that the book is Team Human, and it's actually written as a manifesto. So it has exactly 100 theses, and it has the main idea of the book is actually to challenge the way we approach technology today. And on the other hand, it also challenges this idea of team playing, or being part of the collective rather than being an individual. And he has this thesis that basically, as we are essentially social creatures, that we can bring in our biggest aspiration exactly through this kind of connecting to others. So basically, I have to share this. So this moment of the end of the book and the 100 theses is actually this find the others. So basically, it really has this moment of kind of finding the other people that think alike, and kind of, but also that think critically. So I found this quite at the end of the book. But the chapter that is chosen here is basically the digital media environment. And I could say that it talks about different things. It talks about the way people behave on the social media, and how people are actually manipulated by I don't know, algorithms or different kind of aspects of as a commercial and surveilled place basically. So what I found interesting is that like when it comes to this manifest, he says it's like his Douglas Rushkoffa is sharing most urgent thoughts on civilization and human nature. And Sara, you are also talking about society and nature, but in a different kind of way. So I found this parallel somehow interesting. So I don't know. I would like to open up now the text itself. So I can just like come with some of the quotes. Also, I would like to mention that Douglas Rushkoffa, if you may not know him, he's quite known actually as a digital theorist. And he has been present since 2000s within this. So from early internet, he's also mentioning with the text, and like I also like that kind of quote that when he mentions that in early internet, basically you were there to, you know, read a comment, think about it, and come back after a few days and write something really intelligent. So in a sense, you were really like, you know, putting an effort and also presenting your best self. And now with this very fast comments, I mean, it's interesting also to see it in this context of what's happening with with certain hate speeches and bans on social medias and so on. So it kind of evolved in something completely different. So I would like to maybe mention, so what he is addressing at the beginning of the text is basically the media. And he says like whoever controls media controls society. And this is the first somehow the sentence that is the statement that is comes out very strongly. And then he goes basically into historical examples. And then comes with the internet in a sense that today people are finally being encouraged to learn code, but programming is no longer the skill required to rule the media landscape. Developers can produce any app that they want, but its operation and distribution are entirely dependent on access to the walled gardens, cloud servers, and closed devices under the absolute control of just 3 or 4 corporations. So he's also saying that with digital technology, we too quickly let go of the social and intellectual empowerment offered by these new tools, leaving them to become additional profit centers for the all powerful. For example, the early internet enabled new conversations between people who might never have connected in real life. So now I would open up the floor for everybody else to maybe say some thoughts about this.
Hi. If I didn't stop anybody from saying a word, maybe I would open up. So I think this topic of having this tension between us as humans and our anthropocentric views, because people are perceiving the digital domain as it's really meant for the human, while as in fact as this chapter would suggest, it's basically like the humans are becoming the objects of the network of algorithms, which are actually kind of compiling and compressing us into data sets. So I think nowadays it's still really relevant for art to communicate these tensions and differences between different things and levels and layers, such as an image, concept, an algorithm you use to compile the image, and the human having at least a limited agenda and a possibility to interact with the work, because this might be actually the way that you communicate these complexities to us, to regular human beings. Because I mean, if we actually lose sight, and I really hope the upcoming generations wouldn't do that, but I feel my generation, for example, is kind of losing sight between what is meant for humans and what's meant for what's built for companies and what's built for algorithms. And the most recent example is for example, the WhatsApp recent development, where the company which acquired it, the Facebook company, so they said they had to be transparent, like, we will use your data, like the metadata around your behavior, we will use this for our commercial activities. And now everybody is kind of trying to figure out what does that mean. So I'm really, really grateful for work such as Sara's, because it really brings to the conversation, it really materializes different ways on how to interact with these apps. I mean, it's really weird that we still don't, like, us, the humans, we can't really understand what the computers that we build are actually capable of doing. And we still kind of personalize every item of data. We think it's about our words or our how our cats look, but it's not really about that. It's about what your behavior is. And I really, this is really curious text. I think I would share it with a lot of people. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Sara, do you want to comment also on the text or of any other aspects?
Yes. Well, I think that the text reads actually like a technological control dystopian future scenario, which I talk about in my work, in which we are kind of living now. But I personally am not really so pessimistic about it, maybe because I understand the things that he was writing about. The text, of course, has a lot of valid points, and I understand why it's written like that, but I still miss the positive sides of the internet and the technology as a whole. Like, yes, it alienated us, but it also gave us a voice. It gave me a voice. And like my brother and sister are younger, born in 2000 and 2002, and I see that the Gen Z understands the algorithms and what the internet is doing to them in a different way than our generation is. So I don't think that the future is that grim regarding social media and its effects on people, because the young people are growing up with it, they're reading about it, they are cautious, they aren't just, you can scam them. It's not that easy anymore. Yeah.
For me, it was also this aspect interesting when he's actually talking about this 80, 20%, like this Pareto principle. So basically what he's saying that in many human enterprises, there is a tendency toward the Pareto principle, or what's become known as 80-20 rule. 80% of people will behave rather passively, like consumers, but 20% of people will behave more actively or creative. So, but what's the thing with the Pareto principle within digital field is basically that's what also Dina you tackled a bit, and Sara, that actually to what it's not about if you like what you like or what kind of person are you, but it's more about the kind of more about the materials or the data that you are living around. And what I found very interesting was that the aim of algorithms is to push from this 80% to 90% to be able to predict whether Mary is going to go on a diet in 3 weeks. And for me, this was really scary. Like, so basically the algorithms are there to predict the behavior, and based on these predictions, to be able to kind of, manipulate whatever they would like to. So in that sense, I found it very, it's a scary thing, the way it functions, that you are getting, for example, this moment where you get the feed, are you feeling fat or something like this. So in a sense that this prediction moment is very scary. And also, like, it's not only about to predict whether somebody is going to go on a diet, but whether somebody is going to change their sexual orientation, or whether somebody is going to get a divorce before they even know it. So for me, this was like a really interesting way, like how something that you don't even know, algorithm can have an idea about this just based on your kind of behavior and on data that is accumulated by your act by your acting within digital devices. And I found that I would now ask you, Sara, like, how do you see yourself in this kind of sense? Like, basically as an artist, you are the one that is creative and unpredictable, especially in this digital world. And also is that you are probably not the one that is checking, your mail, news, and then some two other things, and that's basically it. It's not kind of repetitiveness, but rather it goes in a much broader way. And also the way you are using it. I would be curious to know a bit more about this.
Well, I, for example, use some multimedia messaging apps or in-browser web design tools in ways they weren't originally intended. So I started using Snapchat and then later Instagram to make unconventional art pieces by pushing the limits of those apps. So of course they often shut down and deleted my work in progress because they couldn't handle the task. I couldn't save my artwork while working on it because it wasn't built for users like me. So that's the 20%. So the same is happening now with my project seminarja. The tool is lacking and shutting down. I made it in Webflow, which is made for creating web pages, not art projects. But thankfully I can save it and work on it later. So it's a lot better than Snapchat.
If anybody else has a comment, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the text. It can be about Sara's work or about some issue that we have tackled until now.
Hi, it's Dina again. I always have some comments, so if anybody else has another comment, I will gladly save my comment for later. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard kind of to create new media. In my experience, it's hard to create new media art because most of the times you would lack tools to go out of the box, and whatever tool does exist, it's always inside of the box. It's kind of optimized for most users, so it's kind of, yeah, it's a median approximation of what the company which provides the tool is interested in. So I'm kind of glad that you had trouble with the work, because that means that you're kind of breaking out of the box that's kind of intended for anyone who creates in this medium and on the web. And I really hope you find new tools. Like, if I think sometimes in artists creating and finding new workflows for themselves, some aspects of corporate workflows are kind of worth appropriating in a way. So for example, sometimes we kind of optimize all work, like bulk optimize, batch optimize. We use scripts to reduce image size for the work to work. So it's always kind of a decision, because yeah, like no tool is built for for new work. And yeah, I really hope you would find tools which could kind of carry your work, because in my opinion, it's sometimes the context of the platform or the service or the software that we use can provide us some kind of coordination in this situation and in this space of the internet, but most of the times it would kind of restrain us from being able to communicate what we wanted to say. So I think it really touches upon the topic, and this is also mentioned in the text, is that it's not like that you are adapting your behavior to your role, but no, it's the other way around. Yeah, it's not like you're adapting your role to your behavior, but you actually start adapting your behavior to your predicted role, which has been kind of approximated by the algorithm. So I think it's really important to kind of mix and mash the methods and the tools that we use, because the tool gives you the option and it gives you the power to create something that hasn't been predicted. Yeah. I had a few comments in the chat, so I just forgot to ask, and I'm really curious about this. Do other people also read the class struggle in this whole issue? Because this is really what I read. Like, this is now when we are kind of realizing, okay, there's this big data and these corporations which are kind of guiding us into where they want us to be. So if you are kind of if you have the upper hand in your class to kind of have filters in between this data collection practice. So if you don't, if being, for example, if being on Facebook is not your immediate necessity, and for a lot of people it's through like neglecting the concepts of net neutrality, there's a whole complex of problems. Like, for a lot of people, these data collection spots have become really a necessity, because this is the way how you stay in touch with your families and with everybody who's kind of important to you. And if you're not if this is not your kind of class-based necessity, then the algorithm is kind of stuck and it can't really read you out or influence you. So I also think this is a really important part of this whole issue, and it's also something to be tackled in art, because if we are creating art which is only accessible and can be read by not by everybody but by certain economically based classes, then I think that might be a problem. And I really believe there's a lot of art like this nowadays, a lot of new media art, which is really inaccessible to a normal, regular person. Yeah, I think I would stop there. I didn't have any questions. Now maybe just a lot of comments.
If somebody else has a comment, Sara, maybe you want to? Okay. Then I would, I think it is important to say also like who has the access and how. And it's again, yes, and that's again the thing, like also who has this access to knowledge, to know that how to move around and to be aware that, okay, this is actually, I'm actually very curious also, like what you mentioned, Sara, about your brother and sister and this generation, how they are actually dealing with you know, meeting bots online and other non-humans in digital context, in a sense that, like, you know, are they knowledgeable enough to recognize this, or they are like, you know, going into, oh, believing it, you know, because it's just there and not questioning it at all. And I think it's also like one of the reasons, of course, this post-truth happening and fake news and all that kind of things, it had to do with on again and the level of European Union that about having in schools media literacy, which is actually kind of learning you the way how to access the information, because without right access to the information, it's again, yeah, it's very problematic. Even, and then without realizing, you become, I don't know, anti-vaxxer or whatever. So it's really like that kind of moment. But I would like to also ask about something Sara and me tackled before going online within this live stream and everything. I'm curious about gamification. Like the author is mentioning it, that game used to motivate employees, students, consumers, and even online stock traders. So I would wonder, like, what exactly is gamification? Like, if you can give me an example, and also I would be curious to know the way you are using it.
Yeah, in my project, I think it's like social media when things are interactive, when they need some output from the user, so that he will probably stay on the page longer. So it's the hidden. So with me, it's the hidden links and the interactive story where the person can choose their own context and where to go next. And I also saw on my Google Analytics page, which I made for seminarja, how users behaved. And when I made the page into this interactive story game, they generally stayed on it longer, like 20 minutes or more, which they didn't before it wasn't interactive.
If there is anybody else who has some other questions or comments.
Hi. So I've been recently exploring TikTok, the world of TikTok. And this is the world that is inhabited by young Generation Z. And it's a comment about literacy, online literacy, internet literacy. Because people were asking me, or I've been discussing with people, I don't get TikTok, I don't get how it works. And I think it's the other way around, that it's not you who gets TikTok, it's TikTok who gets you, He starts to understand who you are. And I think that's where literacy comes in, that basically you are curating content for yourself by spending time on a certain video and pressing like on a certain video or following someone, and then suddenly this content will generate itself. And more you are kind of in touch with what more you have more critical thinking, the more you can create this stream of content to suit you. But you, of course, have to know what you want. If you don't, you can easily get sucked into a monoculture of couple TikToks where it's all cute and, kind of you're mesmerized by beautiful bodies. And that can be obviously quite damaging to someone, to someone's, what do you call it, self-worth. But yeah, it's really interesting. And I really like how quickly kind of communities are forming, you have that are self-aware. So you have something called witch talk, which is kind of dealing with this witchy feminist kind of, and people say, oh, this is for witch talk. I'm making this video for witch talk. So people are seeking out these pockets that are being created. But again, I think this is really a result of critical kind of thinking. But it seems that that younger generation seems to be kind of, it's more intuitive in them, or maybe it's something that, I don't know how it happens. And I'm sure people are also idiots and watch stupid stuff and become bigger idiots. But yeah, it's interesting that basically these algorithms, you can kind of direct them if you're aware of them, I also on Facebook, like I delete, like, I don't know, I always, whenever there is a commercial, I put, I'm offended, and then they have to deal with it. So they're kind of learning that they shouldn't send me these things. So yeah, but you have to be kind of vigilant when it comes to algorithms.
First, I love the little Jure in the corner. Yeah, he's a little you. So I actually had the exact same experience with TikTok. I first downloaded it and it was awful. But now it's like just the perfect comedy, political, visual, just my cat, sorry. Just a combination of everything. And yeah, you have to teach the algorithms to really show you what you want to see, which is a problem if you don't know it, but once you know it, you can really exploit that.
Thank you. Now, if there is any other comments or thoughts, because we are now with time for the last thoughts, and I think I think if nobody else wants to say anything, I would just then maybe agree with Sara's words as concluding ones. I like the conclusion that you need to teach algorithms rather than they teach you, because they are doing that in a sense that they are first having all the data about you and then just putting the little, roads that you can only take. And it seems that that's the only possibility. So in a sense, I think this is, and I think this is actually the whole book of Douglas Rushkoffa, that actually it's not about completely ignoring the technology or anything thing like that, but rather to use it in a more team human way rather than for kind of exploitation and manipulation, to use it in a more creative way and really to use it in a different way and in a critical way rather than just coping with it and being just passive about it. So I think I would definitely recommend to the reading of the whole book. So and okay, so if anybody wants to share something for the end. No. Okay. Anyway, so thank you very much, everybody, especially Sara, for being here with us. And hopefully there were some things for you that were inspiring here, and that you had some kind of invitation to more follow Sara's work, as well as maybe to read the book or find more about things that we will discuss. So thank you, and maybe we see each other on next Tuesday. Ciao.